Harvard Divinity School.
100 Years Rudolf Steiner, December 15th and 16th, 2025.
Our next presenters are David Martin, Chair of Medical Theory and Integrative and Anthroposophical Medicine at the University of Witten, Herdecke in Germany, and Andreas Schmitt, Specialist in Visceral Surgery and Scientist at the University of Tübingen. And they are here to tell us about the philosophy of freedom as an inner schooling path, results from a worldwide annual training program.
So we have just heard from Cześć Spabi how human evolution, according to Steiner, goes from a monism to a dualism, but actually going back to the monism is not automatic. We have to build that capacity. And we have just heard in your beautiful talk, Wolfgang Clement, how a hermeneutic approach can enable an organic thinking, a thinking that starts within thinking to grasp a whole work as a whole. And the question with it is, can one go from there to developing within thinking a perception or a beginning of insight that goes beyond our sense perceptory insight? And this is what Rudolf Steiner proposed. He said, he's given many exercises, but the safest path to develop spiritual insight, clairvoyance, which he claims to have had, is the path of the philosophy of freedom. So we are taking this hypothesis, and Andreas Schmitt, a surgeon, has taken this path and transformed it into an annual training, which I have been had the pleasure of being the first guinea pig in this journey. We started it together, and we will now account of this journey and of our attempt to also scientifically assess its results.
In the anthroposophic view, the human being, the earth and the cosmos as a whole is in a constant evolutionary process, in a constant development. And the human being, we as human beings play an essential role in this development. And the world is not finished without us, without the human being. And there are certain qualities that the human beings that we are meant to bring into the earth development, as Rudolf Steiner says in his lectures about the Gospel of St. John.
Our earth has the mission that the beings who are to develop on it must cultivate the element of love to its highest potential. Let us be clear about what this means. Earth, Steiner's hypothesis, is the planetary state for the development of love. No being can love another in the full sense if this love is not a free gift to the other being.
So in this lecture about the Gospel of St. John, he points out that love is a gift of a free being. And that was in 1908. And it's already in the core, in the center of the philosophy of freedom, that these two qualities, that we exercise our freedom only when we act out of love for something.
So we all know what it means to gain or not gain outer freedom and the ability to exercise it in the physical world. And we're more and more, as we mature, get to know what inner freedom means, not reacting out of the past, out of emotions, prejudices, or thoughts. And Viktor Frankl has this beautiful statement.
Between stimulus and response is a space, the space of my freedom in which I choose my way to react.
And he discovered this space in a concentration camp. And he discovered within this space much more than just emotional reaction. It's a space you can develop in thinking. And perhaps it is a space within which you can start to perceive more and more. And this also becomes maybe a space within which you can perceive the motives of your action, to act intuitively out of your own creative power and to develop love for your action.
To live in love for the action and to let live in the understanding of the other person's will is the fundamental principle of free human beings.
And one of the most beautiful experiences on this path is that it increases the trust in one another. Because if you start to gain confidence in the other person's thinking and ability to contextualize, you can also reduce all these regulations our society is being overloaded with.
The free person lives in the confidence that the other free individuals belong to one spiritual world and that their intentions will harmonize.
And for this, your thinking needs to be living. It needs to not be something that is come from the past. It needs to be able to adapt what is going on right now and to find the actions out of it.
But if we once succeed in really finding life in thinking, what we have talked a lot about during this past 2 days, we shall know that swimming in mere feelings or being intuitively aware of the will element cannot even be compared with the inner wealth and the self-sustaining, yet ever-moving experience of this life of thinking. This is brought about by a power flowing through the activity of thinking itself, the power of love in its spiritual form.
So we're on a quest to discover this power, to perceive and exercise it.
So how do we come closer to this life in thinking? What's the method to come closer to this content of the philosophy of spiritual activity? And our starting point is that we should not only read it intellectually or even philosophically, but to experience it in a more meditative way. And we find that according to Rudolf Steiner himself. As he had just written the philosophy of spiritual activity, he wrote a letter to Rosa Mayreder.
I do not teach. I recount what I have experienced inwardly. I recount it as I have lived it. Qualitative research.
That means for Rudolf Steiner, the philosophy of spiritual activity, it was not only a book that he wrote, it was very existential. It was somehow his life, the challenges he lived through, and he wrote it down afterwards. And another starting point for us is what he wrote years later.
It is not merely a matter of recognizing what lies in such a thought, but of experiencing it.
So it's not only about understanding or recognizing something, but it's about experiencing something inwardly within our thoughts that makes something meditative. And that's our approach. And Rudolf Steiner also points it out at several places in the philosophy of spiritual activity, where he talks or writes about the experienced thinking, contemplation as the way to insights. And so our annual training, Philosophy of Freedom, is meant to be an inner spiritual path to experience life in thinking, and freedom based on inner activity, intuition, and when it comes to action, love for action. And that means at the same time, it's not a book, but it's not something we experience in the thoughts, but it's also a path towards oneself and the own creative power.
And now it's always interesting to contextualize what one's doing. And if you ask perplexity, as we just did yesterday, lists scientifically evaluated paths of inner philosophical or meditative schoolings. It proposes mindfulness-based interventions as developed by Jon Kabat-Zinn, which you all know well, I think, by now, mind-body medicine. Transcendental meditation, which is now being also adapted in schools and community to improve social emotional skills and some academic and behavioral indications. Contemplative education with mixed meditation, reflection, which helps attention, empathy, classroom climate, and self-awareness. And also philosophical groups for children to help dialoguing skills and social emotional development. And the fifth is Steiner-inspired inner schooling, structured meditative thinking with philosophical text, an adult training program, which has reported benefits as self-reported gains in concentration, clarity, and spiritual well-being. Schmitt and Martin, this is the quote of the talk we are giving right now.
So we are we are very happy that we now start to be part of the scientific community with our annual training program, Philosophy of Freedom. And what is the method? So how do we, what is our approach towards the philosophy of freedom that is not only for philosophers or scientists, but for all the people, for many different people, and even for people who have never read the Philosophy of Freedom or any book from Rudolf Steiner, or who have even never went to a higher school education. Because we have all these people in our annual training program, as well as people who are very deep within anthroposophy. So the method is that we put the main thoughts of the Philosophy of Freedom in the train of the book onto cards. So the main thoughts that are 600, so it's not a very reduced set. We are working on a reduced set, but for this course, it's around 600. And if people want to join the course, it is 7 months, it lasts 7 months. They have to commit themselves to concentrate 15 minutes a day on these cards. That means on these sentences of the Philosophy of Freedom. That means we have made out of the Philosophy of Freedom this inner schooling path, like we do in meditation, because in meditation we concentrate on it every day and maybe on one sentence for years. So we have done it similar with the Philosophy of Freedom. And just to make a little practice with you now, we would like to invite you to do that just for 1 minute and to experience it only for 1 minute, a little experience of life within thinking. And I will show you one card from the first part, because the first part of the Philosophy of Freedom is the science of freedom, and we are a scientific community. So we will not go directly into the love, but first into thinking. But we will see what you will experience. Maybe you will feel your heart. Okay, so here's the sentence. And we now invite you for 1 minute to concentrate it. And maybe first you step back a little inwardly, because we are also concentrated on the outside. I invite you to step back a little inwardly and first to feel your body a little more. Maybe you feel your feet and you feel your seat. And you also feel your uprightness. And you may realize then that you are also a breathing being with a center, maybe in the middle of the heart. And with this awareness, I invite you to concentrate now for 1 minute on this beautiful sentence of the Philosophy of Freedom and try to understand what is written there and maybe even how it's related to your own personal life.
I will read it twice. The subject does not think because it is a subject. Rather, it appears to itself as a subject because it can think. The subject does not think because it is a subject. Rather, it appears to itself as a subject because it can think.
Thank you very much for joining in this little thought experience. With more time, we would have loved to share your experiences and to it longer and to have also a sharing with other people. But now we have to go on. What you might have experienced is something like an inner space that opened up, and maybe even a little glimpse of blissfulness within this inner space that has to do with connecting to your own being.
And freeing your own being at the same time into thinking.
So now we will go on. So our annual training is accompanied by weekly letters, so that we write every week. So now we have hundreds of letters because now the course is 7 years. We do it 7 years. We have monthly conferences. We have a buddy system, so everyone gets support. They support each other, the participants, and also regional groups worldwide, an app and login space. And
so we started 2 doctors and a medical student. Then the year after 45, 212, the year after that, 345, 557, 764 participants. So we've been doing it now we're doing it for the 7th year. The astonishing thing for me is that a number of people are coming towards us and saying, we want to support this, we want to volunteer. And that has led to many initiatives and to many languages.
And the volunteers are especially needed because we have so many languages. We have been in many countries, in India, in Canada, in Spain, in Russia, in Japan, in Korea, in the USA with Gopi. Oh, he has left already with his conference, in the UK. And also we have a group in Sekhem in Egypt. And so we have this training in many places all over the world. And we have, meanwhile, here you see the development of the languages, 14 languages in which we offer it. And people in all these languages who go in the same pace through the philosophy of freedom together with us, starting on Michaelmas and ending around Christmas.
So our monthly conferences are in the morning for one half of the world and in the evening for the other half of the world.
Okay.
We are trying to investigate this, and we see a trend in people answering after the course, more feeling peaceful, more reason for living, more productivity, less trouble, feeling peace of mind, more sense of purpose in their life, able to reach deeper down into themselves, sense of harmony, less lack of meaning and purpose, more comfort and faith, more strength within faith and spiritual beliefs.
And we also have invented our own questionnaire where we see that we have an increase in certainty in thinking, ability to concentrate, new insights, mental health, intuitive abilities, willpower.
Now, these are self-perceived. We would need to do randomized controlled trial to prove this, and maybe that's coming sometime. The qualitative research shows more openness, tolerance, patience, mindfulness, joy of life, less prejudice, bias, belief in authority, and maybe we almost don't have the time, but even less belief in the authority of Steiner, which is great. Willpower, ability to think, And out of this, we realize we have to develop more questions. For example, consistent and confidence in my thinking. Value other people's opinions, even if they contradict my own. Awareness of the motives behind one's actions, acting out of one's own initiative, development of new ideas and creative solutions, feeling of life being precious and valuable, hope for the future, love and understanding for each other, and deepening and strengthening of meditative practice.
And if you look to the challenges we are facing right now, and especially young people, these qualities we see here and we want to further investigate are essential for the challenges we have.
So
okay.
with regard to, we have very little time. With regard to our outlook, we are developing more languages.
It's okay.
Worldwide community, and
thank you very much. And if you want to take a postcard to know more about the program or to do something, you are invited to take that. Thank you very much.
Sponsored by the Program for the Evolution of Spirituality.
Copyright 2023, President and Fellows of Harvard College.